Tommy with Elevation Every Weekend. Welcome back to the channel. In this year's Olympic mountain bike cross-country race, a hardtail actually won gold in the women's race. I find this to be noteworthy because over the last 5+ years in World Cup cross-country racing, full suspension XC bikes have been the dominant choice. This is largely because over that time in cross-country, the tracks have become extremely technically challenging, featuring lots of roots and rock gardens, along with various drops and jumps. All that despite maintaining the major climbing element that's always been a hallmark feature of cross-country racing. As a result, bike manufacturers have continued to push the design and development of lightweight full suspension cross-country bikes that have the frame geometry and suspension travel to handle all of those technical elements, yet remain race-worthy on the climbs. France's Pauline Ferrand-Prévot cruised to an Olympic gold medal by a margin of about 3 minutes over silver medal winning Haley Batten and bronze medal winning Jenny Rizvedz. And the podium in this race is actually a good representation of the types of bikes that we're seeing now in cross-country racing. Rizvedz rides for Ibis, and she was riding their pure cross-country full suspension bike, the XC. This bike features a more traditional full suspension setup with 120mm travel up front and 100mm of travel in the rear from the multi-pivot DW link suspension. Batten was also riding a full suspension bike. Her Specialized S-Works Epic has a lower travel rear suspension shock with a single pivot flex stay design, which is also found on another bike like the Trek Super Caliber. And finally, let's focus on the gold medal winning hardtail Pinarello Dogma. This bike has actually been out for a couple years now, and they also do offer a full suspension variant, which oddly enough in the men's race Tom Pidcock piloted to a gold medal as well. Back to Pauline's hardtail. As hardtails go, this is not a cheap bike. It is built purely for race winning performance. At a glance, to me, the most noticeable feature are the asymmetrical seat stays, which while they may look a bit odd, they clearly do the job. But we'll talk more about that in just a moment. Pauline's bike has an estimated cost of about $12,500, which is extremely expensive for any bike, especially for a hardtail. I was able to find the consumer version on various websites for just over $11,000, again still insanely expensive. Up front, this bike is running a 100mm fork, which is by Fox on the stock bike. The bike has a modern head tube angle of either side of 68 degrees depending on size. Some of the other bike and frame features are, for example, what Pinarello calls a unique bottom bracket area, and you can see it clearly has a different appearance, which they claim delivers extreme stiffness. The bike also features a fully integrated cockpit design, which is something that's not uncommon among other brands of XC bikes at the World Cup level. Pinarello says this saves weight and improves precision in the steering. The headset area also has an internal stopper to prevent the bars from hitting the frame, like in a crash. But actually, this is a feature I have on my Trek Pro Cow, which I do appreciate. And as I mentioned earlier, probably the most interesting frame feature is the asymmetrical design of the seat stays. Pinarello says this is a patented design, and they claim that the left side is reinforced to counterbalance the higher forces being applied on the opposite side of the drivetrain. They say this improves energy transfer, speed, and traction. So while this bike did not have any rear suspension, Pauline was running a dropper seat post on it, which really is essential these days. So while this bike is far beyond what most of us would ever be able to afford or even need for the riding or even racing that non-pro enthusiasts may do, I still wanted to highlight this bike to show that the hardtail is not dead and can still perform and win at the highest level of sport. And I really did love seeing it come away with the top result, even though as an American I was rooting for Haley Batten to win, but was still happy that she got silver. So if you have any questions or anything else to add to this discussion, comment down below and tell me what you think about this Pinarello Dogma and seeing a hardtail win the gold. Although honestly, the credit has to go to the rider, and I think the way Pauline was riding, she could have won this race on just about any bike. So drop a like down below if you were stoked to see a hardtail back on the top of the podium, and subscribe to the channel. It really does help out, and especially if you want to continue following my mountain bike, fat, and adventure bike content. After a busy summer, we're getting ramped back up for some videos, so stay tuned. Thanks a lot, and have a great day.